You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
If this were some tavern tale, all half-truth and senseless adventure, and it's full of demons.
And it's full of demons.
'Twas disastrous.
It's coming, people. It's coming.
Pitchforks, get your pitchforks here. Can't kill a demon without your pitchforks.
Torches and pitchforks. No defense. You better defend yourself.
No matter how you spend your life, your wit will defend you more often than a sword. Keep it sharp. Have I got some shit to tell you?
I gotta practice my killing.
Let the wicked hear my voice and tremble.
Fly, you fool.
Fly. You have to pick a side. You stay on your path, or you cross over to me.
I wanted to get inside so badly I could taste it.
Upon him I will visit famine and a fire, till all around him desolation rings, and all the demons in the outer dark look on amazed and recognize that vengeance is the business of a man. Caster Quest, now on the ESO Network.
ESO, ESO.
Hello and welcome to the Monster Sci-Fi Show podcast. I am your host, The Monster, back to give you a special podcast, which is the long-awaited, long-delayed E3 coverage. So, what is today? Today we celebrate the day after Independence Day. So, happy July 5th. Or Revenge of the 5th, or whatever. And happy belated Father's Day. Where's my cake, Bedelia? If you don't know that reference, Google it. Alright, so what I really wanted to do was get a more elaborate podcast out to you guys. But because of time and physical condition, because I just came from the doctor, and in addition to my rotator cuff having problems on my right shoulder, now I have tennis elbow on my left arm. So I can't even switch hit. Lucky me that I have a wife. Alright. So I'm not really happy with things have been going lately. So I had to kind of cut down the amount of information that I wanted to research and really go into. One of them is going to be VR. VR is a big thing that is going to be coming down the wire. Again, PlayStation is really putting a lot of emphasis on their new devices coming out in October. But I want to do another podcast specifically on all the virtual reality from Oculus Rift to the PlayStation VR and what the hell happened to HoloLens. But all that information, I want to save that for another podcast. So that takes up a lot of information off my plate. Then, on top of all that, I have to focus on watching all the streams a couple of days, if not a week or two, after everything's been all said and done, and I have to analyze what I'm thinking. That's also been a struggle, so I'm limiting down to Ubisoft, PlayStation, and Microsoft. And I'll talk about Nintendo right off the bat. Since Nintendo did not appear in E3, basically they did a live stream from Nintendo Treehouse. From what I saw, and I'm not a big Nintendo person, although I do play Nintendo Wii U at the library, there wasn't a whole lot of wow factors or something that I'm like, wow, this is great, I can't wait to play that, or really get excited about. The only thing we get some news about the next generation of console for Nintendo is coming out in 2017, called Nintendo NX. Who knows if that will stay the course. But there's no mention about any plans for VR. Now, having said that, if we remember back in 1995, they had something called a Virtual Game Boy, in which that really didn't go far. Basically, it was a standing Google Glass headset, but not a headset that you put over your head, but basically it's a stand. You put it on a table, and then you look through it like a little viewfinder or a pair of binoculars, and the images were red. And again, not a big hit because of all the limitations with that technology. Virtual reality back then, again, was very clunky, very off-putting. I've tried on the headsets, which with glasses are miserable. So I don't know what they're going to be doing, but all they talked about was The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Pokemon Sun and Moon. And that was it. And honestly, I was just completely bored by it because I've never played Legend of Zelda. But from what my daughter has been telling me, she's looking forward to these two new titles coming out. So, alright. But aside from that, again, a very blah, very non-inspiring presentation. So, moving on. Let's go to Ubisoft. Ubisoft had Alicia Tyler, who I love dearly, and kind of kept it going along. I mean, it's pretty long the presentation to begin with, but a couple of things that I saw that I liked as far as their presentation. The Ghost Recon, the Tom Clancy Ghost Recon Wildlands, I was very impressed by. Steep is another game that really, for me, I'm not all about story-driven gameplay in which you go through the whole game and you're done. I want to have a game that has pretty much an endless amount of playtime. I don't want to finish a game and then I'm done with it. If I'm going to spend $60+ on a new game, I want that to last. So, looking at Steep and their presentation, and if they put this with a VR component, I think that, to me, would be a much more compelling gameplay for me. Again, I'm getting much older. I'm coming up with a big 4-9 in about a month or so, which means come next year, it's the big 5-0. I get that big AARP discount and the jitterbug phone with the big buttons. But the gameplay for me, and I want to do this a lot more, unfortunately, I can't go through a story mode anymore, or at least I don't find that to be interesting. I'd rather do arcade style games or games like Steep that is more of performance and just little tweaking here and there on how you can actually live through that VR environment if they're doing that. But very impressive with their skiing, their wingsuit, the snowboard, and paraglides. That alone kind of won me over just from that aspect of itself. South Park Fractured Butthole, which is their own take on Civil War. I will like to eventually play that. And of course, if you listen to the presentation, if you buy that game, you do get the Stick of Truth in addition to that game. And there was the Star Trek Bridge Crew, the VR game. The promo had LeVar Burton, it had Jerry Taylor, 7 of 9, and I forgot 2 other people who were in there, but I'm blanking out. In any case, basically you're not competing, but you're playing along with 4 other people in a bridge simulation in a VR environment to go on an adventure. And to me, I think that is alone enough for me to be excited about in that kind of VR world, because as long as I'm not getting sick by the motion of the cameras or me looking around, I think that'd be kind of cool. But again, we're not going to see this until much later on this year. Eagle Flight was another one that I thought it kind of might be interesting, but again, the gameplay depends on how well it feels through the VR, since you're playing kind of this weird catch, scoring points, as birds, as eagles, and you're flying around France, and from what I saw in the video. I'm not sure how that would feel with the VR headset, but again, a simple game doesn't have to be story-driven. We'll see what happens with that. And then we had Watch Dogs 2. I was okay with it, but I've never played Watch Dogs, so I had no point of review on that to comment. So let's move on to PlayStation. Basically, my thing is that Microsoft threw it out there before the conference about, hey, we can play together regardless of whatever console, meaning I can play someone with Star Wars Battlefront on my Xbox One, and I can play with them on the PS4, and we can do that. Nothing was ever said since then. Nothing was mentioned during the conference, and I'm kind of disappointed that that was even an option. But that's my struggle, is that you have really two great systems that are able to do the exact same thing, and you're basically making up a civil war. You know, you have Team Xbox One and Team PS4, and I really don't want to do that. I want to be able to play with those people that are not into Xbox. So as long as we have the exact same game, why not? So that's my only thing that I would comment. But the couple of things that I did like, again, PlayStation is really dropping down big time with the VR games. We have the Star Wars Battlefronts, the X-Wing VR mission. That, I think, is going to be stellar. But again, the VR component and the price tag is about $400. So to drop that kind of money for a headset plus the game, that's dicey. But if you go to bestbuy.com, you can put in your zip code or whatever to find where they're doing the actual PlayStation VR demo. So I haven't done that, and there's one location here in Miami that I'm planning to go to on my day off and try it out. But again, the big test for me is going to be with the glasses. As long as I can wear the glasses with the VR headset and not get disoriented, I think that's going to be a winner. The other one I was really impressed with, or at least I want to get into, is the Batman VR, Batman Arkham VR. So please, all the better to quote-unquote wear the cowl and be immersed into that character and be the Batman that I've always wanted to be, and not just in my imagination. We also have something that I thought was kind of weird, but it's not that uncommon with this whole remastered stuff. The Crash Bandicoot being remastered, that has to stop. That's just as bad as having the Disney, movies that come from the vault or lock up in the vault. How this is a brand new edition and it's like Blu-ray edition, platinum gold. Who cares? It's the exact same movie. All it is, you're just doing little tweaks here and there. And they're doing that also for Final Fantasy. That does not impress me. If the game is good on its own, for whatever graphics that it has at that time, if you can go back to it and play it and still enjoy it, then there's no reason to be remastered. I have the Nintendo GameCube that my cousin gave me years ago, which I play, and I love playing Rampage and Godzilla. Those games are fine by itself, the way it is. It doesn't have to come out with another edition, which is the exact same gameplay, except that the graphics are more enhanced. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways, and just leave it at that. There's no need to remaster to get more money for the exact same game that I just had. I mean, I can see the wow factor and see, so it looks a little less hazy, it's more detailed oriented with the trees and the forest, and who cares? If it doesn't change the fundamental basic of the game, remastered is just another way of these publishers trying to take your money all over again and calling it a brand new product. It's not. It's a rehash. So that I was kind of upset about. The other one too was that Crash Bandicoot was also going to be appearing in Skylanders, and I thought that's, again, from a marketing point, and I've again have a background in that, was that you get to a point in which your product is going to reach a certain level in which you have to add different components to keep it more relevant to people who love your product. My son has stopped playing that game maybe about a year and a half. So to add this component into Skylanders, I don't know if that's enough for a draw for him to go into Skylanders or go back into Skylanders. But it's kind of like the Cousin Oliver effect. When you jump the shark, you have a world that, like, who the hell is this guy? Cousin Oliver really kind of like tanked the rest of the Brady Bunch after his appearance. I guess to be a point, I'm like, yes, you need to do something new, but introducing a new character that is not really connected in any way, and if it is, please let me know. But I don't see other than, hey, let's play Tetris, and this is boring. But guess what? We're going to put a VR component onto that, or we're going to add Superman to the game. I'm like, that has nothing to do with the gameplay itself. All you're doing is just hoping that people who love Crash Bandicoot, that's like, hey, I want to play him regardless. No, just leave it alone. Call of Duty, I have not played, or at least I try to play a little bit again at the library when the kids are not around. So looking at the trailer of Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, I really would like to get into this, but not anytime soon. And overall, what I thought about the presentation for them, right from the outset, I was very happy to hear Bear McCreary doing his music live at that time, and in a big kind of theater style performance, and I get why they would go with him, and it's fantastic to get the God of War music played right before the gameplay happened, but then it kept going back between the people to present, and the exact same reaction, like, hey, let's give it up to the orchestra, yay. And it was just very awkward. It wasn't a very smooth transition between his playing music and the next introduction to the next game through various presenters. It just felt very awkward and very clunky. So, having said all that, again, the VR component is going to be a big thing for them. I just don't know, again, $400, plunking it down, if you're going to have that problem. If it doesn't work, there's a lot of games, a lot of money at stake that PlayStation is going to lose. So, let's move into the Xbox One. The big thing for them they kept talking about was that Xbox One and Windows 10 is going to be compatible, meaning you buy the game digitally. I can play it at home on my Xbox One. I can play it on my laptop with the Windows 10. Regardless of the system, I can play it anywhere that I am. That was fantastic. So, rather than having the PlayStation with another new component that ties you at home, I was more intrigued about the Xbox One being able to play. If I'm on the road, I have my laptop, I can delve into my gameplay wherever I am. That, I think, to me, was a big expansion of their presence, because now they're looking at other platforms like the iPad, Android devices that you can play wherever you want, with whatever you want, and with whomever you want. So, that was, again, for me, a big draw that I took away from their presentation. Alright, so before I actually go into the new Scorpio console, they did talk about this one that's coming out soon. It's called Xbox One S, which is 40% slimmer. It has no Kinect support. So basically, it doesn't look really optimistic for games that have Kinect support or other applications in the future, so I'm kind of disappointed about that. But basically, you'll still be playing the exact same game, but it's prettier. So, okay. But in the meantime, we're going to have to wait at least another year before we get Scorpio, which is going to be 4 times faster than the current system. So this is where I'm thinking, perhaps, this is where we're going to get the HoloLens, which is more augmented reality as opposed to the virtual reality. And if you had seen the E3 from last year, they did a whole Minecraft segment with the HoloLens, and I'm more impressed by that. And I think that problem that I would have with my glasses and the orientation, because everything is through just a simple plexiglass shield that I can still see through, that I would have an easier time with that versus the actual VR headset. So, if that's going to happen, we'll see what happens. But I really do want it to happen. So, a couple of games that I actually got excited about was Forza Horizon 3. I enjoyed the second one a lot. Haven't played as much lately, only because of the kids taking up my damn system. And by the time I get home, I'm already beat to begin with, so I get very little time to do that. Recore, again, I was impressed by it last year. I don't know why it was coming out again, or at least it was delayed, whatever reason. Fine. Battlefield 1, I definitely would like to invest money into, but not at this time, just because I'd rather wait. Just like for many things, the invisible hand theory. When the demand is high, the cost is going to be high. When the demand is low, that price with the invisible hand drops that price down lower. So I'm very particular about my money, since I have none. I want to get the most bang out of my buck. So, but Battlefield is definitely one of those that I would love. Minecraft Realms was talked about, and it did have Oculus Rift being part of the gear. So again, I'm not sure what's going on with HoloLens, or they're going to go with Oculus Rift. Alright, so let's move on to independent games. The one thing that stood out since even last year was Cuphead. Cuphead basically is the old style cartoon style from the, I guess, 30s and the 40s that I wound up growing on myself, but it's in a video game itself. So I definitely would love to try to give myself a good try on that. The other one that I've always loved, the makers of Limbo, which came out years ago, is now free on the Xbox One because they have a new game called Inside that's coming out. And then the other thing that I was also interested in was called Sea of Thieves. Basically, it seems like it's an open world in which you can be pirates, you can do whatever with your friends. Again, like, for me, having fun with friends along that way, I think is a lot enjoyable to do that kind of gameplay rather than, let's say, a solo campaign. Although I would also agree that Star Wars Battlefront needs to have kind of a solo campaign, so you don't have to play with everyone online. Because if you suck like I do, the minute you get out into that world, bam, you get killed by Booger Snot 3000, you know. And it's frustrating. That's the big thing, is the frustration. Because there are going to be an unleveled playing field, and to do this and to spend that kind of money and time is just frustrating. I'd rather be with my friends who I know I can at least beat someone. That's all I care about. Alright. Oh, and then the other thing I forgot to mention with Ubisoft, and again, I waited, but Prince of Persia Sands of Time is now free as a download to your PC, which I did get. Have I played it? No. But it's on my PC, and I will eventually get to play with that. So, again, I really wanted this whole podcast to be much longer, but I wanted to at least give you an idea of what I thought about for E3. Next year, hopefully, I'll get to do a lot more coverage and talk about each one with a guest at length to kind of give more details, but this is just me with limited amount of time, and which I got to go to work in about 10 minutes. So on that note, I have several themed, again, Star Trek podcasts coming out this month, and we also have Comic-Con from San Diego is going to be coming out this month as well. So there's going to be a hell of a lot of podcasts that will be going your way, so stay tuned for that. So I appreciate you all for listening for me, the monster, on my show, the Monster Sci-Fi Show podcast. Follow me on various social networks. Email me at themonsterscifishow@gmail.com. So again, thank you for listening to the Monster Sci-Fi Show podcast. Sci-fi from a certain point of view. Good night.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network, your station for all things geek. Classic, current, and beyond. Be part of the crew at ESONetwork.com.